We bring on Adam Lichtenstein, covering the Canes here. Really excited to have Adam back on. Adam, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. I got my coffee, so I'm all good.
Yes, I love to hear it. It is quite the task to cover a national championship game because there's only so much time, between the semifinal and the national championship. And for you, so much to do. How has your week been? Everything going to plan for you guys over there?
Yeah, actually, a little peek behind the curtain. This week's actually very, very slow. There's not much media availability this week. Between Mario Cristobal and Kurt Signetti's Monday press conferences, and the team's arrivals. I say arrivals in air quotes because Miami is going from Coral Gables to the other side of Miami. But between Monday and the team's arrivals on Friday, there's really not much going on. It's just a lot of talking. And I'm thankful that it's Thursday and we're almost done with listening to, no offense, all of us talk and can finally start hearing from the players and coaches again.
And it is teeing up for a great Monday night there right at Hard Rock. It's got to be really nice to not have to travel after the season. But let's get into the game a little bit. Carson Beck, Fernando Mendoza, kind of the complete opposites personality wise. What is that chess match, as far as what you've seen, kind of evaluating it going to look like come Monday night?
Yeah, it seems almost like opposite game plans. I think Indiana's a great all-around team, a great all-around offense, no doubt, but they're going to lean on Fernando Mendoza because he's been so good, because he's the Heisman winner, because he's so accurate. The craziest stat that he has, more touchdown passes in the playoffs than he has in completions, which is just nuts. They're gonna rely on him. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes game plan, if everything goes perfectly, Carson Beck doesn't really have to do a ton. In Miami's ideal world, they're going to run the ball 25, 30 times. Mark Fletcher's going to get 150 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns, and they're going to rely on their running game and their defense to win. And Carson Beck might throw 15, 20 times, ideally. Now, I don't think we're going to live in an ideal world for Miami, but I think it's like opposite game plans. Like, not that Carson Beck has been bad, but for 2 of the 3 playoff games they've played in, he's not been the primary focus of their offense.
And I'm glad you brought up, Carson Beck having to, maybe be a little bit better than he has, or just not being that primary focus. Even you look at a guy like D'Angelo Ponce, who, comes up with a huge play right off the bat against Oregon. That's really, I think, what Miami is going to have to weather is that early, mistake, coming out too jacked up to play in your home field. I don't know how much Mario Cristobal will let us behind the curtain, or, in the media, with how he goes about things. But is that something that they are guarding against? Is the overhype, the everybody's back in Miami watching us try to win this national championship? You don't want to come out feeling the pressure of playing a home game, in a sense.
For sure. And they'll tell us over the next few days that it doesn't matter. They're treating it like any other game. Go 1-0 every week, all the cliches, but it's hard to imagine that it wouldn't feel like there wouldn't be extra juice because you're playing at home. Might be a little different because you're wearing road uniforms and, coming out of the road locker room and stuff, but it's hard to imagine a reality where it doesn't factor into people's brains at all. Whether that gives them extra juice and gets them fired up and they play better, or it makes them more nervous, won't know that until Monday. But like you said, they definitely have to weather, the early excitement, boost or curse or whatever you want to call it. And I think both teams are going to have to deal with that, though, because Fernando Mendoza, it's a homecoming for him, being from Miami. Both of these teams are playing in national title games for the first time. For Miami, in Miami's case, in 25 years almost. In Indiana's case, first time ever. So, none of these players have this experience on this stage. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be nerves and excitement for everyone.
That storyline, what do you remember about Fernando Mendoza? And it's kind of been talked about now, with the transfer portal and, how it just didn't come together at an earlier point in his career, when he entered the portal.
Yeah, I didn't cover him much in person because my newspaper's based in Fort Lauderdale, so we don't cover a lot of the Miami schools a ton. But I remember talking to people just around South Florida football, and he came up. It's okay, this Mendoza kid at Miami Columbus, he's good. I don't know how good he's gonna be. Oh, I think he's going to the Ivy League. Oh, he's going to Cal at the last second. Okay, cool. Good for him. I remember people saying he's got a great family, like, great kid, kind of the things that you hear from like local sports writers, myself included, about when they talk about kids they cover, like, good kid, good player, don't expect like, he wasn't Jeremiah Smith, like obviously like, we got from Jeremiah Smith, and like everyone knew from the time he was like a sophomore in high school, if not earlier, that he was going to be a Pro Bowl, potential Pro Bowler one day. And then you see Mendoza do well at Cal, and it's like, oh, good for him. Like it's good that he's doing well. Like good for him. And like I saw him play last year when he was at Cal against Miami, and like he was good. Like he had a good game. Would I have said he's going to be a Heisman in a year? Probably not. So he's the evolution of him from overlooked high schooler to solid college quarterback at Cal, on the outskirts of the ACC, to, Heisman winner for a national title, potentially winning team is like, Cinderella doesn't even begin to cover it. It's like Cinderella plus like, I don't know, Snow White, and add a couple other fairy tales in there.
What does Miami have to do to get after this? I think more so Indiana offensive line, kind of reset the line of scrimmage a little bit. Keem Mesidor, Mario Cristobal said he's good to go. It seems like, because that injury did not look good when it happened in the against Ole Miss, and now you have Ruben Bain, you have Akeem Mesidor, Ahmad Milton got banged up early. Are they going to be able to move that line of scrimmage against what is a really veteran and experienced Indiana offensive line?
They definitely need to. I think they will. I'm not guaranteeing anything because my prediction is like a 1-point game. Like I have no idea what's going to happen in this game, but they definitely have to. Mendoza's very, very good under pressure, but he is, like every other quarterback, significantly worse when he's under pressure. So they need to get after him. And something that was interesting to me when I was looking it up the other day when I was trying to figure out who to pick is, so you look at the quarterbacks Miami's played in the playoffs. Julian Sayin and Marcel Reed hold on to the ball for roughly like 3 seconds on average, like for both of them. And Miami sacked them a combined 12 times. Trinidad Chambliss gets the ball out much faster. He gets it out in an average of like 2.4 seconds, give or take, like, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like when you have a Ruben Bain and the Akeem Mesidor coming after you, that's a lot of time. He got the ball out much faster, and Miami only sacked him 1 time. Fernando Mendoza is right smack dab in the middle of Chambliss and Sayin and Reed. Gets the ball out slower than Chambliss, but faster than Reed and Sayin. So the question is that enough time for Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor to get to him? I think it's possible. Indiana has a, All-American left tackle in Carter Smith, who I think has allowed 1 sack all season, which is, obviously a huge asset to have at left tackle. But Miami faced a similar offensive line against A&M, where Trey Zune, their left tackle, is also, an All-American, also, allowed, I think, only 1 sack going into the game against Miami. And Miami was still able to get pressure in that game. I think, I've heard, I don't know a ton about like every individual person on Indiana's offensive line, but I do know Carter Smith's obviously the strength, and then it's not as strong across the board. Still good, but not like as good. And when you have the #1 pass rushing team in the country with the most sacks, the highest pass rushing grade from PFF, they're going to bring exotic pressures. They're going to bring defensive back blitzes. Like Keontae Scott always has an eye on the quarterback. Like they have to get pressure, and I think they will.
You mentioned that is incredible research, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it did seem like Trinidad Chambliss was almost at times able to almost taunt the Miami defensive backs who would, bring that blitz. I know there was, I think, one where, Keontae Scott came and just didn't get to him, and Trinidad Chambliss took the hit, made a play, and kind of let him know a little bit about it. And when you factor in those defensive ends, being able to pass rush the way they do, that is going to be, really probably where the game is won or lost. And if they can set up Indiana in, situations where they're behind the chains, that gets them off of their, game plan completely, because they're very much a team that, thrives on the efficiency of their offense and converting third downs and picking up what they need to just keep the drives rolling.
Yeah, exactly. And like, hey, Indiana's game plan, like same as Miami's kind of, is just get those chunk plays, like get those, 5-6 yard plays, make it 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. And then, if you go and get a first down on 2nd down, a 3rd and 2. Miami plays the same way. If you can get them and force them into 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 11s, whatever, the long 3rd down plays, if they convert, tip of the hat, good job. But that's where Miami thrives. They thrive when they can pin their ears back and rush. So if, you can get either team really in these 3rd and long situations, your chances of getting the offense off the field is obviously much, much higher. And that's basic football. It's obvious, but like it's going to be so important in this game, making sure for both defenses that they keep those offenses behind the chains.
Carson Beck facing this Indiana defense that is really, really kind of a tight-knit group. I thought the thing that stood out that I didn't realize watching that Oregon broadcast, and they mentioned it right off the bat in the opening play, they play like 14 guys. They don't have a deep rotation, but they all play extremely hard. They have versatility. They do all the things that they're asked of defensively to make this happen. What does Carson Beck have to do to, maybe be a little bit more of a playmaker that I thought he did at the end of that Ole Miss game and, the heroics that he showed, but kind of pick up where he left off in a sense in that regard?
Run the ball, apparently. Take the ball and run, apparently.
Yeah. Vanilla Vic.
Dual threat quarterback over there. But yeah, I mean, like obviously Indiana has a phenomenal defense. Like I was looking at like their PFF grades and their stats and stuff, and it's like every guy, like every position is. You would think it's like Ohio State. Like Ohio State was kind of reminded me of Ohio State, where it's like every position they've got dudes. Defensive line, linebacker, DB, like they're good all over the place. So, Beck obviously has to continue what he's done for really the last couple months and be very careful with the ball. And he has been over the past 7 games. So since the SMU game, he's only thrown 2 interceptions. One of them was against Ole Miss where the ball just was tipped. Like it got tipped at the line and fell to a defender. And like only so much of the blame is on him for that. But he has to be very careful with the ball. He's going to have to fit the ball into tight windows probably, which he has shown that he can do. He's going to have to convert on 3rd downs, which he's been doing all throughout the playoffs. Kind of just keep doing what he's doing. He's not put up like insane numbers. He hasn't put up Fernando Mendoza numbers, but he's been consistently good when they need him. And I think they're going to, kind of stick with what works. And it's all going to come down to how much they can do in the running game. If they can get 5 yards a carry out of Mark Fletcher, they don't need Carson Beck to throw for 300 yards. If Mark Fletcher's running for 2.5, 3 yards a carry, okay, now you need Carson Beck to do a little bit more. Get the ball out to the playmakers, get it out to Tony, get it out to Keelan Marion, and make things happen, and maybe make things happen downfield. But ideally for Miami, they'll be moving the ball the most, running the ball.
18 interceptions, 11 fumble recoveries. Ball security is going to be key. Another key, field position always. I think this is an area where Miami could exploit it a little bit. Indiana's punt game, not necessarily a great thing. Granted, they don't punt it a ton, but that is something where I think this game could be a little bit more of a defensive battle. I just like the way both of these defenses are lined up. And I think both teams would rather this not get into some shootout, I would think. And so if you're seeing the punters get jogged out there a little bit more, I kind of lean Miami. I kind of lean field position being in Miami's favor here.
Yeah, I mean, I was slamming the table at the end of the regular season. I'm like, Dylan Joyce should have been an all ACC punter. And like he's had some some highlight reel punts in the playoffs. He had one, I think, against Ohio State where they pinned him at the 2. He's a great punter. He's a weapon in getting them, good field position. He hasn't been perfect, but he's very good. And like you said, I don't know if either team really wants this to be a shootout, but I do think if it does become a shootout, that favors Indiana, kind of like with Ole Miss, where I think, if Miami can drag this game, make, kind of slow it, well, not really slow it down, but technically speed it up because the clock's always running if you're running the ball, but, slow it down, have those long methodical drives, those 10, 12 play, 75-yard drives where you score at the end. Like that's the game Miami wants to play. I think that's also the game kind of Indiana wants to play. So they're I find these teams very similar in kind of like their styles and their strengths. But I do think if this game does end up more of a shootout style, that does favor Indiana.
Miami wins if, and Miami loses if.
Miami wins if they can get to Fernando Mendoza. If they can put him on the ground and put him and constantly harass him, I think they have a very good shot to win the game. Miami loses if they can't get to Mendoza and allow him to pick them apart, because Miami's going to be short on defensive backs in this game, short on cornerbacks. Xavier Lucas is out for the first half because of the targeting call against Ole Miss.
Crazy.
That's what. Yeah, I don't know what targeting is anymore.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I stopped pretending like I have any clue. But he's out for the first half because of that targeting call. OJ Frederic is banged up. Mario Cristobal said he should be good to go, but he did only play 5 snaps against Ole Miss. Who else? Damari Brown, who he's been out the whole playoff run, but was very good for them during the regular season. He's been day to day for the last week or two. He was listed as questionable for the last game. We'll see what happens this week, but I wouldn't expect him, because even if he is healthy enough to play, he hasn't played in going on a month and a half now, almost 2 months. Do you really want to throw him into the mix against the best team you're going to play all year? I don't know. So they're going to be a little bit short on cornerbacks. That depth is really going to be tested. So if Miami lets Fernando Mendoza sit in the pocket and find, Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, then they're in a lot of trouble.
We will see how it goes. And have you revealed your prediction? Are you able to reveal your prediction now?
I can reveal the top secret information because it was in the Sun Sentinel yesterday. I went back and forth for basically from the time the Indiana-Oregon game, well, I wouldn't even say ended because that game was over in the second quarter. I was going to pick Indiana. They're so good all over the field. I just you have the Heisman, you have great running backs, great receivers, great everything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick Indiana. And then the more I dug into it, I'm like, I think Miami has a good shot in this game. And I think I don't know if you look at the teams that Indiana's played, when they play those really talented teams, they're not always a juggernaut. They only beat Ohio State by 3, and Miami beat them by 10. And they only beat a bad Penn State team by 3, and they needed a miracle touchdown at the end to do that. They only beat Iowa by 5. And I'm like, Miami's better than those teams. So I'm like, let me think about this. And like I said, I dug into that stuff with Mendoza's time to throw and how he is under pressure. And I'm like, if Miami gets to him, Miami's the best pass rushing team that they'll have played. And if they get to him, they can win. So I picked Miami 21-20.
Okay. We have it here first. We have it here first from Adam Lichtenstein. We appreciate all the time previewing this game. Enjoy it, man. These things are just awesome to be a part of, and very happy for you to bounce back from where you guys were as a beat following that SMU game, and now I get to be here.
I just think back I think back to Middle Tennessee State 4 years ago, where Miami lost, and not in a fluky way, to Middle Tennessee State at home, and the fans losing their minds. I think back to the Georgia Tech game 3 years ago, where I was looking around the press box like, am I the dumb one here? Am I the one who can't do math? Which is entirely possible. And I think back to those games, and they've come a long way. And it is really cool. And Indiana deserves all the attention, all the props. This is the team that was the losingest team in college football forever. And the fact that they've turned things around in 2 years is insane. They deserve all the props, but it is kind of Miami getting kind of lost in the shuffle, because they are a great story in their own right as well.
Well, that's why you stick with head coaches sometimes. I don't know if it would have been easy to get rid of Mario Cristobal after some of those moments, but it in today's day and age of college football, sticking by their guy has paid off in a huge way, and Miami is back. As Mario Cristobal doesn't like to hear, but it's true. They are back.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely back to being relevant. That's for sure.
Yep. There he goes. Adam Lichtenstein. Thanks so much, man. We will, I'm sure, be chatting with you after the national championship at some point. Enjoy it.
For sure. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yep. There he goes. Adam Lichtenstein joining us on All Access AM. Thanks so much for his time joining us. Big time opportunity for Miami to do something really special in their home stadium. We are going to have a show Monday morning, of course. I am going to reveal my prediction Monday on the show. I'm still wrestling with it. I don't want to sit here and think that I'm just automatically going to pick Miami. I am leaning there right now, but I want to just kind of think this over a little bit longer before I reveal my official prediction for this national championship game, because look, there's a lot to like about what Indiana has done and their dominant run. I mean, this is a team that is really shown just how well they're built. And, at the same time, Miami has just tons and tons of talent, and things have certainly come together in the right way for them as well. So lots to talk about there. Do want to remind you guys about our friend Doyle Glass. His best-selling books on the Vietnam War are something that you guys should pick up, whether it be on Amazon, whether it be on Barnes and Noble. They have firsthand accounts of the Vietnam War from American heroes, whether it's Lions of Medina or Swift Sword. Make sure you pick up one of his books today. They are just incredible. And soon enough, he will be coming out with a World War II book as well. And here's one of the reviews on Lions of Medina, which I am reading right now, but quote, captures the chaos and ferocity of infantry combat and shows that little has changed from the past at Thermopylae to the jungles of Vietnam and the streets of Iraq. That's from Nathaniel Fick, a New York Times best-selling author, one bullet away. So Doyle Glass is a great gift for birthdays, for Christmas, for Father's Day. Make sure you hook up the history buff in your life with a book from Doyle Glass. So you can check that out in the podcast episode description as well, and click the link and go shop his books that he's got out there.